I speak to Steve Stidolph. Steve has gone from rock star to firefighter to personal trainer to business owner. Steve's journey has been a compelling and inspiring one. We discuss reputation, playing the long game, overcoming adversity, and the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I really hope that you do too. So, as always, hit the like button if you do, subscribe if you want to, and if you think anyone else will find this useful, then please share. Steve, welcome to What Do You Do? Thank you for your time, mate. Looking forward to this conversation. So, I'm going to dive right in with Steve Stidolph. What do you do?
Well, thank you. And first of all, it is absolutely amazing to speak to you, Ian, because you are an absolute legend. So, yeah, basically, I work in health and fitness. And I've worked in health and fitness for 23 years. And actually, I'm just going to say this right now. Ian was actually my manager at one point, and actually a fantastic part of my fitness journey, which was through leisure centres and then working up to doing my fitness within the fire service as well, and then eventually building my own business and brand, is which I'm doing now. So
nice, amazing, man. So tell me more about Gladiator Camp, because it's something I've kind of witnessed the growth of, but purely from like a very much an outsider perspective, watching it grow online. So, in fact, funnily enough, gosh, where was I? It was when I was working as an MVQ assessor and training up a young guy. And he visited somewhere, went on a training course or something. And I was talking to him about it. And it was like, oh, there was this guy there called Steve. And it was a really interesting guy. And he was telling me all about this gladiator camp. And I was like, oh, really? What gym's he from? It's like, oh, he's from Petersfield. It's like, I know Steve. And it was, he was like, oh, he sounds like this really cool thing that he started. And that was a while ago. So that was 10 plus years ago.
Man, so honestly, we are literally just due for our 12-year anniversary in May.
Amazing. How did that come about? Tell me the story.
Right. So basically, I have worked in fitness. I did my qualification when I was 18. I'm now 42, nearly 43. And a massive change in my fitness journey was when I had a big period in my mid-20s where just a lot of stuff happened in my life. I lost like my brother and my parents and all this sort of bereavement stuff, what was going on. And then I broke my leg, and I was at this real kind of point in my life where it was like, it can't really get any worse. You're at rock bottom, and then you do one thing or the other. And I don't know, I just had this sort of epiphany, I suppose it is really. I was on crutches with his broken leg, which was just a ridiculous thing that happened. But yeah, anyway, I won't go into that. But I'm walking down to town, a bit sorry for myself on these crutches. And then I bumped into somebody I went to school with, and he was saying to me, oh, yeah, I'm thinking of joining the fire service as a retained firefighter. I've heard about it. It sounds really good. And I went away from that conversation thinking, wow, that sounds brilliant. Good on him. And I thought, you know what? Not only good on him, I fancy a bit of that. That sounds like exactly what I need in my life right now. And it was actually like some of these things in life, it's like it just kind of works out. It just flows. I absolutely not lying. I was on my crutches. I'd been down to town for a coffee. I was on my crutches going back to my house, and I passed one of the lads from the fire station in his uniform, and I literally got chatting to him and said, I'm obviously on these crutches, but I'd be really interested in coming in when I'm rehabilitating my leg or whatever. And he was like really enthusiastic, and he was like, brilliant. Come down on Monday night at 7:00 and speak to the watch manager, whose name's Bugsy. And I did. And I went in there on my crutches, applied, and the rest is history, really. That was it. Obviously, I was a long way off getting in because of my leg, but that was it. I put the application in, and that takes ages. And then I was obviously rehabbing, and I was back. And basically, what this is leading to is joining the fire service, and that whole process was a massive, massive turning point of my life, because I made a choice there. You know, I made a choice. When I was in my teens, I'd been a little bit reckless, and I was sort of drinking and being a little rascal sort of thing. And it would have been very easy at that point in my life to have gone back down to that familiar, you know, rabbit hole and dive into that. And I would have had a fair bit of justification, losing my parents and, you know, like breaking my leg, and things were looking a little bit dark for me there. Not many people would have blamed a 26-year-old rock and roller for diving back into the old rabbit hole, you know, and I didn't. I made a choice. I made a choice to do something better, and that was to join Hampshire Fire and Rescue Service as a retained firefighter. And the people that I met, I'd never experienced working. I'd had a little bit in fitness, and you'd been with me working a bit in fitness and seen a bit of my journey, but it is to a completely different degree when you go into a professional setup like the fire service, and you're on the parade line. You've got to iron your shirts, which was so good for me after, you know, I didn't want to turn into a, you know, little, you know, after I'd just been, you know, in that sort of pocket, in that sort of dark place. I could have just been a bit like, oh, I'm here and I can't do anything for myself. So it's so healthy for me to, you know, go and have discipline and go get on the parade line, iron your kit, polish your boots, have a bit of, you know, discipline. And I think that's what it's all about. And that whole brotherhood and that unity, and for what it did for me as a person, I was like, I want to bottle this stuff and sell it. This is great. So I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a sort of fitness community. And I literally just got I got the inspiration. It was amazing. It's like, you couldn't write this, right? So I've already got this idea that I want to create this community. Not sure exactly what that's going to look like yet. And it was another guy, Martin Dixon, that we used to work with at the Tarot as well. And he was going, "You've got to see this series, Spartacus. It's like it's really, really cool series, and it's all about the gladiators fighting and all this." Anyway, I've watched this Spartacus series, and it's like this really cool like TV show, and all the guys are in really good shape, and they're like these real kind of gladiators, and they're doing all this. And in the extras, it shows that to get in shape for the film or the movie, the filming, they went to gladiator camp. And they would go and they'd do this training, and it was like showed this community of these like-minded people training but having fun doing all this at gladiator camp. And I was like, gladiator camp, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create my own gladiator camp in Petersfield, but it's not just going to be for big, strong, fit people. It's going to be inclusive, like anybody can do it. And I'm going to use my whole backstory of, you know, going through some hardships in life, going through a period where it would be easy to just be a victim and to just let life swallow me up a little bit. But you don't do that. You turn around and you go, actually, I'm going to make a choice here. I'm going to take control of my life through physical application. I'm going to do some training. I'm going to give up like drinking for what I'm not saying you have to give up drinking. I'm not implying you can't drink and be fit. I don't want to go down that path, but whatever it is, you know, whatever it is. But for me, I personally said that because I've had an issue with drinking and I don't really drink anymore. So for me, abstaining from drink at period of time for me was exactly what I did need to do. But it can be whatever it is to take a bit of control over your life. If you have a habit that's destructive to your life in any way, then perhaps you should abstain from it and actually see what that's all about. And if there's an addiction that you need to manage or whatever. But yeah, so for me, it's about that mentality of like-minded people that are actually prepared to go, this is the hand I've been dealt. It's a bit rocky, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do something. And those are the people that I want. And it doesn't matter what demographic you come from. I'm looking for a mentality, not like a, you know, not a thing. And and that's what I built Gladiator Camp on, man. And I built this camp, and I did 6-week camps, and you did it 3 times a week for 6 weeks, and you signed up for the whole 6 weeks. That was the big commitment. Like, you know, you did it for the whole 6 weeks, and there was all sorts of different personal commitments. And actually, I'm going to completely talk about that as well, because that's also the way that I like to do my fitness and to advise people in that respect. Is it's not one size fits all. It's not you should give up drinking or you should do this or you should do that. We've all got different goals, needs and wants. And and all this sorts of stuff. So it's whatever works for you. And I actively encourage that from the word go, that people do what's right for them. You think, what would be a good goal for me? You know, if you eat like a whole massive chocolate bar every night, I would suggest you probably do want to cut that down. So that's a lot of sugar in your gut late at night. So it's going to do nobody no harm to just chop that down a little bit and have a little bit less. So whatever the goal is for you, whatever it is, and you can take that into obviously business or a relationship or whatever you want. But for me, the essence of my business is really built around a mindset. It's kind of a belief system. It's like a mentality that you have, you know, and that's really what it is, what it is about.
Nice. So it started off being like these 6 week camps, essentially, as you said. How did it go? Was that at the location you're at now? How did it go from that to what it's become now? Because I know now it's something much bigger than that, isn't it? You've got personal trainers working, working with people of all ages as well, people of all fitness levels. So, what was the kind of journey and the transcendence of that whole process?
Yeah, I actually think the journey is the best journey that you could have, to be quite honest with you, because I've literally worked it up from the bottom and worked my way up incrementally. And the whole world, the fitness industry, people, the whole world's completely vastly changed. Like how it looks in gyms now is completely different to how it was when we began in there.
I remember it, absolutely.
Yeah, but I really like it. I'm a man of tradition, you know, and I like to do things that way. That's the way I went into the fire service, even though I was 28 when I actually got in. I was sweeping up, making the tea, because that's what you do. It's the pecking order, you know. And I really love those traditional values. I really like to embrace those. So yeah, I like the journey. So basically, I started off with the leisure centre journey, as you know, because you were a part of that, and it just incrementally built up. The big change was kind of going into the fire service and then coming back with this new, more militant sort of mentality of, you know, sort of progressing things and sort of just, you know, upskilling and all of this stuff. And yeah, it was fantastic, because I was able to work in the leisure centre and start my own business, but just run it through the leisure centre. So it worked really well for me. And a lot of people through this whole journey will actually telling me, no, you should go out on your own because you're going to make more money and go and do this. And I went, do you know what? No, because I'm building up a reputation. I'm building it up. And that's actually one of the most important attributes I think that you need, is to be able to focus and understand the long game. Yeah, because I think that does get lost a lot these days. And for an abundance of reasons, it gets lost. I've always had the ability to play the long game, and that's always served me really, really well. I can always look 10 steps ahead. And I was happy to work at the leisure centre for like about seven or 8 years, exactly that way, because it was really good. I was building up my experience. And at that time, you know, I wasn't earning really that much money at all, but it wasn't about the money for me. The whole thing was built on passion. And after a really dark time of my life of losing my folks and having my whole world turned upside down, all of a sudden now I was a firefighter, I was a fitness trainer, I was building my gladiator camps on top of that. So I was happy. I was working all these hours and doing all of this stuff, but I was absolutely loving it. And I was just, you know, just building up the tools that I needed for the future, basically. And this does prove it. Hard work pays off, because actually, a really amazing, really amazing special person called Stevie P. I won't go into all this too long, because I'll be talking about him I've just been on the phone to him today, actually. But he's basically one of my mentors, and he's an incredible man. And he's been a big part of Petersfield Rugby Club, which is opposite the leisure centre where I used to work. And he basically he's just really he's a great guy, and he works down at the Navy base, and he's into all the fitness stuff, and he's done all this sports and conditioning with sports teams. You know, he's really got high up in the sort of sports and conditioning world. And he is the one that got me to go over to the rugby club. He said to the Stuart, the man that's the chairman of the club, he said that I'm the man that they want to have there in the gym. And they had a gym there. and it just needed somebody to come in there and kind of care for it really and make it a gym. You know, you can't just have a gym with a load of kit, you know, with nobody being accountable for it. There's nothing there, is there? You need a bit of pride of ownership, which you can only have when you've got like a proper setup going on. So I've come in there and I'm managing the gym. Fantastic opportunity ever, basically. They've got this gym and it's just got lots of different bits of kit in it. But the problem is without anybody really kind of running it, it kind of just falls apart a little bit. You kind of need somebody there doing that. So the proposal to me was to take my business Gladiator Camp into the club, and then I can run that there while simultaneously setting up some strength and conditioning training, primarily for the juniors, and to get some events like fitness events and things running at the club. And well, obviously that was like the most incredible proposal, and we're just 5 years to where we are now, and it is this is the, I was going to say this, I'm going to say this right now, but I'm 42 years old, and for the first time in my life I actually feel proud, and I can say I'm proud. I've never been able to have that feeling. I've had a lot of issues in that department, and we're going to obviously talk about mental health at another time because that's a whole topic of its own. But I feel proud because what we've got is amazing, and I've worked really hard to get it. It's been a massive journey. There's been a lot of great people along the way. There's been a lot of people trying to, you know, mess with you along the way, and that's what life is. Life isn't rosy. You don't get these success stories that are all good or all bad. Life is a mixed bag. It's a box of licorice all sorts, isn't it? And we know this, yeah. It's the old classic, but it's so true. And you wouldn't have one without the other. It's the yin and yang of life.
Yeah.
But where we are right now is the gym is looking absolutely immaculate. We're all set for be expanding those facilities as well, ready for the next season this year. So there's lots and lots of talk going on behind the scenes, which is mega exciting. So obviously growth is always something to get excited about. But the most important thing is we are in full run of our junior training, and it is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. It is absolutely the business.
Again. So that's fantastic what you've achieved up until now, Steve. What I'd like to do next is explore who you were before you became who you are now. So thinking about, as we've said, we knew each other and we worked together a long time ago. And there's little bands that I want to talk to you about, some that you might have heard of, called, I'm going to probably might pronounce this wrong, actually, Valambrosa.
That's perfect.
There we go, Valambrosa. So before you were a personal trainer, you were an international rock star.
Yeah, I certainly don't think I was that, but
I don't know. I'm pretty sure you did some tours in some other countries and things.
Yeah, we did a few little bits and pieces.
There you go. Sure, that's international, man. So talk to me about, because that's you were like young when you were doing it. You were like what, 17, 18?
Yeah, yes, sort of music was always the important thing in my life, really. So I will actually talk about that right from the start, because in my younger years of my life, I just wasn't really happy. You know, it wasn't a happy feeling. When I think back to any of the younger years of my life, like for me, my life has progressively got better because of the work that I've done.
Yeah.
And that is just the actual real truth of it. But I discovered music when I was like 9 years old, and it was Michael Jackson. And I remember seeing Guns N' Roses and Metallica on the TV, and I was just like, that is it. I've got to play a guitar. And then all of a sudden at primary school, we got the opportunity to have a guitar lesson and learn a bit of like row, row, row your boat or something like this.
That classic
banter. You know, probably a bit of Green Sleeves if I'm not mistaken. But and that was it really. Music became my life. That was all I did. You know, when I didn't really do well at school, all I did well at was music and art. I wouldn't do anything else. I just didn't really get along with it. I wasn't really encouraged that much to do it. I'm potentially some sort of ADHD, or I'm definitely got some dyslexia, which I got picked up on the fire service. which is, I'm not making excuses with that. I'm just,
Not at all, man. They just weren't as aware of it when we were young, right?
absolutely. And for
Yeah.
me, I wasn't really aware of any of that. And
No.
when you are aware of these things, it can be a really great way to sort of manage stuff. So
Yeah.
for me, it was all about the music. That was the thing that made the most sense, and I'd spend hours and hours and hours doing that. And it's funny actually, because it kind of, that sort of fizzled out when I was sort of 17, and then
Mm.
I got into the fitness when I was 18, and then I think, yeah, it was when I was 20. That's when we suddenly started picking up. I ended up having a jam at a party, jamming with some random guy who was a kid then. He was like 17 or something. So he's like, it's quite young, isn't it? That is, it's the age gap's
Yeah.
different, isn't it then? And anyway, so it's this nipper like absolutely shredding all this Pantera, and I'm like, this is amazing. Anyway, and we ended up forming a band,
Nice.
and yeah, we did a few albums, and we, God bless us, did a few tours and tried to do a few bit of world domination and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So, from my memory, it seemed like you were the one who did a fair bit of the management of that process as well. Is that fair to say?
well, yeah,
This
to
is
be
just me from the outside, so
yeah,
correct
yeah,
me
yeah.
if it means.
Yeah, to be honest with you, yeah, I mean, for what that looked like, yeah, literally, to the perfect truth of it is we didn't really have any professional support or anything. We had a few people helping us out with bits. Some was good, some was a bit detrimental,
Mm.
but pretty much I was just sitting there, and what that looked like is me just tapping up promoters, tapping up venues, just trying to get gigs, trying to get stuff, just actively. MySpace was the social media platform
Yeah.
back then, so it was just on MySpace. And to be honest with you, what I was doing would be like, wouldn't be what you would be doing now. And if you were, I was just a nipper. I had no real idea
Yeah,
what I
you
was
learn
doing.
pro, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You just think you're going to get this lucky break if you knock on enough doors hard enough, and the enthusiasm was
Mm.
there. And we did these gigs, and we got to go to Italy, and we got asked to go over, and we did these like little music videos here and there, and like all of this sorts of stuff. So we got a real little taste of it, and it was just built on so much passion, and we
Mm.
all had these little backstories with stuff. And all the time, when I was in the band until right at the end when I broke my leg, and then went into the fire service. That was right at the point where the band ended.
Okay. So that was the defining moment, then I guess, right? That was that sliding doors moment, if you like. That breaking of the leg
Do you,
was.
do you know what? It was one of those. It's funny how things go, but like when I broke that leg, we were literally scheduled to go to Italy. We went quite a few times actually with the band. I think maybe 3 in total. And on the last time, I didn't go because something like 10 days before, I broke my leg and I was in hospital. And the guys went to Italy, and it was the most gutting thing in the world. I was stuck
Yeah.
there with my broken leg, and these guys were in Italy playing these gigs. I've literally got a picture of them on the stage in Italy holding up a sign saying, "We miss you, Steve."
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was like really special. But honestly, there was so many things going on. Like our singer had had to have an operation on his throat,
Mm.
and other people in the band had other personal stuff going on as well. And it really was things just draw to a close, right?
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's quite an interesting thing because at that point, it's funny, isn't it? You can stay dedicated to something, but you have to do that with some level of awareness and some
Yeah.
level of education, if you will, or I don't know if that's the right word, but you can't just blindly keep banging along with the same method, going, "I'm so determined, I'm so dedicated." At
Mm.
the end of the day, we tried so hard with the band and given so much energy, and if
Mm.
that wasn't enough, you need to kind of accept that isn't enough. You can't, because your energy would become less and less. It would deplete as you went on, and
Yeah.
it would end up not working. It's not good for you. You need to have the forward momentum. And for me, and we're all in agreement, that was definitely the time to move away. And the fire service was the new journey, and
Yeah.
and then that's when I created Gladiator Camp. And then from that point, that's when I decided I want to become a business owner.
Mm.
And I don't know, I think life does need to have that progression. For me,
Yeah.
that's the juice.
Yeah,
That's the bit that
absolutely.
keeps me going. And that doesn't mean like financially necessarily. Like, of course, that's, sensible for just a bit of comfort around you and stuff like this. But for me, I'm never really interested in that. It's everything about the real passion and the meaning behind what you're doing. I feel like what I do has purpose, and I'm fully invested in it. I fully believe in it.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that. You really can't. There are
No.
so many people that, and through this series, one of the things I'm really trying to get across through this series is having purpose, having something that you feel like that you're passionate about, something you feel like you're working towards is so much more important in the long run. And you're talking about earlier about that long versus short perspective. In the long run, it's so much more important to have that for happiness than it is for the three-figure paycheck, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a guy who very much inspired by called Simon Sinek. He did a lecture or a TED talk a while back called Start With Why. And that's all about finding your passion. What is your why? What is your meaning? What is your kind of raison d'etre? Um,
Yeah.
and he also, funny enough, talks a lot about finite versus infinite gains and finite versus infinite thinking. So, finite thinking and finite games are there's set start and time periods, there are set rules. You play it to win. And with a winner, you have to have a loser. So, generally speaking, if you're playing a game or living your life towards a set parameter, a set time frame, you may win, you may lose, but there will always be winners, there will always be losers. Whereas if you take an infinite approach to things, you get an infinite mindset. I'm doing this for the love of it. I'm doing it for the passion of it,
Mhm.
not because I need to make X amount of money, not because I need to buy X or Y car. Um, it's all about doing it for the love and doing it for the passion. And for
Yeah.
me, that's where the juice is, right? That's where the good stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I really do that. And can I say something on actually talk about this because it sounds silly, but I just want to say it.
So yeah.
But there's things like I had a lodger for a while, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so because I had a lodger, we went halves on a cleaner. He was the one who suggested it actually. So we're paying for this cleaner, and then he's moved out, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay someone for the cleaning. I'll just do it myself, right? And it's actually empowering just
Mm-hmm.
getting into these tasks and doing them properly. And I probably have been inspired a little bit from the fire service
Yeah.
experience. And then I've got some friends like um, in the Navy that are just like very inspirational characters. And they're very, you spend time with them and you just want to start to become more like them because they're just very on the ball with stuff. And it's a very, it's cool, right? And,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like
We
loving
are
that. And it's just
we are the
funny because
result of sorry, Karen.
no, I was just going to say, but it's just funny how just stupid little tasks like coming down, sweeping the floor, cleaning up, whereas before I would have probably moaned about it. Now I'm kind of like, I kind of like the discipline. I feel like
Mm.
the discipline defines who I am. I get up and take care of business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so there is, I can't remember, but I'll put it in the show notes. But there is a book, and I think it's called "Make Your Bed," and I'm pretty sure it is also written by someone who's in the Navy, and it's very much that. When you get out of bed, the first thing you need to do in the morning is make your bed because that will set you up for the rest of the day. Because as soon as you say, "Oh, forget it, stuff it," to that first task that you're presented with, that
Yeah,
sets you in that mindset for the rest of the day. So
definitely.
and we talked about it as well previously when we were talking about cold plunge and cold showers in the morning.
Mm,
Yeah. So if you can do that, if you can tackle that, if you can overcome the most difficult thing potentially you're going to do that day, i.e., sit in you know, a tub of cold water or stand under a cold shower for 3 minutes every morning. If you can do that, come hell or high water, then you've already done the most difficult thing that you're potentially going to do that day. And everything else just seems a little bit easier by comparison.
yeah,
And
absolutely that. I absolutely love that thinking. I absolutely love it. The cold water exposure. I'd just like to talk about that actually, if
yeah,
I may. I actually started doing that last winter
mm.
because I just felt like I wanted to become more resilient.
It's
And
a hell of a time to start, mate. In the
yeah,
winter.
and I thought, why not? Best time to
Yeah,
start than
absolutely.
ever. When did I actually get it? I can't, to be honest with you, I can't remember the month. But the first time I went in it, it certainly wasn't as cold as it is now. It was like 14 degrees, right?
Mm.
And I got in, and I reckon I did about 30 seconds, and that is like nothing, right? It's like, that's 14 degrees is warm, right? But that's all I could tolerate,
Yeah.
right? And I have literally been doing it since then, and now I can get in when it's like 0 degrees.
Mm.
So you can build up a tolerance for it. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting actually. I think that's one of the great strengths, but also one of the great drawbacks of being human. The stuff that we can get used to.
Yeah.
So you can get used to having a job that you really don't enjoy. You can get used to a life that is uninspiring. You can get used to so much so quickly.
Mm.
But unless you challenge yourself to be better, and it's hard work, but it's rewarding, right? And it's worth it.
Yeah.
And you get used to the hardship as well. You get used to the challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how you grow, isn't it? You move towards a difficult thing, you move towards the hard thing, and you make that part of who you are. You make that part of your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than shying away from the scary stuff, you move towards it.
Hell yeah.
And it certainly sounds like that's what you've been doing with the Gladiator Camp. So I know you've mentioned a few people that have helped and supported you along the way. Um, what do you feel like was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome with setting up Gladiator Camp, and who was it who helped you, if anyone, overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's a collective of people, but I identified the biggest challenge actually is transforming or transitioning from a fitness coach, a personal trainer, whatever you want to call it, to you know being a, a business owner.
Yeah,
Basically, quite simply, that it's a different kettle of fish. When you're owning a business and you've got to manage a team of coaches and all of this stuff, you know,
yeah, it's a very
that's a completely different story, and it's it is funny because I suppose it depends what your job is to how that would work, because usually if you were like working in a corporate thing, you would have training, you would work even in the fire service, you would go in as a firefighter, then you would go up as a crew manager, but there's all these training plans in place. Whereas for me, I was just this like local geezer working at the leisure centre. All of a sudden you put me in charge of being a health and fitness manager at a rugby club, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, like, we can talk about this more at another time, but I was really apprehensive about going into that club because it was a rugby club. I didn't know anything about rugby. I was going in there and I simply thought people wouldn't accept me. So I will actually say something else on this topic, that the two biggest obstacles have me kind of learning how, to just, it's a different role. So just
yeah,
transitioning into that different role, but actually the mental and emotional elements that come through it, like to be a business owner and to overcome some of the obstacles that every single business owner is required to overcome. You have to have a lot of mental resilience, and
yeah,
you have to be able to overcome any self-doubt and
yes.
insecurities that you have. And I've got them in abundance.
Mm.
So my battling my mental state as well has been hard, and that is also why some of my mentors have just been I've just got fantastic people around me. I've got such great people around me. So many of my clients are they're just just very successful people, entrepreneurial mindsets, and they're just able to help me with certain things. And I've just got really decent people that are just really, really decent people who just do the same sort of work that I do, like something they're passionate about. It's not fitness, it could be teaching, it could be this, it could
Yeah,
be that, but they're doing jobs that they're really, really just passionate about, and they have exactly the same passion for what they do and educating or inputting and coaching people as that I do. So those sorts of your environment makes a huge difference, and I really, really am such a huge advocate of that. Like, the older that I get, the more that I find I'm just more and more around like-minded people, and it's empowering, it's infectious.
yeah. You are the sum total of the people that you spend the most time with.
Absolutely.
And
exactly
you either
this. It's
spend
not a
people,
truer word's been said, mate.
yeah, you either spend time with people who are, happy to stay where they are, or as you said, those people who have a growth mindset, and as they grow, they will either leave you behind or they will
Mm,
bring you along with them.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that.
So when you were starting out Gladiator Camp, you must have had a vision for the future. What did that future look like to you?
Yeah. It's always just been about the biggest possible collective of like-minded people, and I'm just orchestrating it
Yeah.
right here. And that doesn't mean I'm orchestrating it like I think I'm Biddy Big Spuds. It means because I have the vision and I'm the one that can see it. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm directing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need to achieve that. You need to get the balance right of being able to take new input and ideas on and allow those in and not allow other ones in, or however you want to term that. But
Yeah.
you have to be open. You can't just do it all your way, but you can't just do what everybody wants because it will fall apart. So it's a firm balance of being, actually, you're right there. We're going to do that, to,
Mm.
sorry, that is definitely not happening. And I'm going to tell you why.
Mm.
And I have to do both of those things on a regular basis.
Mm.
And that's part of doing what I do.
Yeah.
And it's hard mentally.
Yeah.
That can be hard. That can be really difficult. And that's why these disciplines that we have, like our training or our cold plunging or whatever, they're just examples because they're our favourites, aren't they? But they're
Yeah.
classics. But
Yeah.
they're all tools, aren't they? They're tools. That's what we're talking about essentially, isn't it? It's tools to get that job done and to get it through. And the support of great people is a huge part of that. Is a
Mm.
huge part of that. And for me, having people like that sort of encouraging you and supporting you, I find that very elevating. And that's why I make a point of complimenting people. My coaches, I'll tell them, when people are doing well, I always make sure I give people a shout out, share the good feedback. It's
Yeah.
really important to elevate people, I think.
Absolutely. Has it turned out the way you planned? When you were sitting there thinking about, I've got this massive idea for this gladiator camp and what it's going to be, has it turned out the way you planned?
Turned out better.
Yeah.
It's turned out better because I never knew I was going to end up at Petersfield Rugby Club. That wasn't part of my first vision because I wouldn't have even thought of that. I was just thinking about the community and the instructors and what we're doing. And being at the club, it gave me a whole new perspective because that's where I met Stu. And he has exactly the same passion and long-term enthusiasm for what he wants to do with Petersfield Rugby Club as I do for what I want to do to Gladiator Camp. So it's a symbiotic relationship. We've just met each other and we are just like, great. And he's a really, really successful businessman as well. And he does the club as a passion on top of everything else he does. And I can learn from him. He inspires me and he makes me think about things, and I would go to him with anything. I would go to him with anything, not just as in, I don't mean I pester him all the time, but I mean, if I need to go to him about a business thing, I will. But I've had stuff to do with personal business stuff that's not really, I don't need to speak to him, but I will ask his advice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I see what does spring to mind that we're kind of in a bit of a loneliness epidemic at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head what the statistic is, but it's something around most men, particularly of our age, don't have a best friend or don't have somebody they can call on when they need help. And it seems like you've managed to find and surround yourself with a lot of really good people.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have advice for anybody else as to how you achieve it, how you went about doing that?
Well, I do know a lot of people and I know a lot of great people, but I've done a lot of things. I've simply done a lot of things and I've put myself out there when it hasn't been comfortable to me put myself out there. When I was young, I was just this tiny, scraggly little kid with my head down, and I had no confidence. And even though I've achieved what I've achieved, I've kind of fallen into this, you know, that kind of trying to please people and worried about what people think about you. I spent a lot of my life in that mindset, and the stuff I've done has not been easy because of that mindset. But the real thing I can say is you've got to do stuff. You've got to get out there. This is speaking to anybody that's struggling and they just feel like they can't do it or they've got these things. The bottom line is, well, this is a really big topic, because if anybody is actually struggling and they have mental health issues and they're worried about their mental health, then they 100% need to speak to a medical professional. And that's the first thing that needs to be said there, 100%. So if anybody is worried that they have issues with their mental health, then they need to 100% speak to a medical professional about this. But if you feel that you're more just really down in the dumps, or you don't feel that good about yourself, or you worry you're not good enough, or you just get a bit of anxious here and there, it's all really normal stuff. It's really normal stuff that most people have. And actually, a lot of fundamental things can really be great starting points with this. So I would ask myself, and I'm talking from personal experience, so I'm going to just say this stance. So I've asked myself, I'm feeling not very good. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling like this and that. It's negative. What am I going to do? And I think, well, are you eating right? Are you eating good, fibrous, nutritious food? Oh, you're eating a bit rubbish. Okay, well, you need to sort that out. Are you sleeping well? No, I'm staying up till 2 o'clock watching YouTube. Well, okay, you probably want to start making sure you're getting quality of sleep. Are you hydrating? Well, I'm drinking just alcohol and Coca-Cola. It's like, you need to hydrate. So all these things, like if your body's like an engine. So I'm kind of jumping a little bit with what I'm saying here, but you have to respect your physical body. You can't expect your emotional mind to be in tip-top working Rolls-Royce condition if you're like treating the body like a scrapyard. You need to treat it like a premium bit of kit. So you need to be hydrating. You need to be eating like nutritious food, definitely hitting your proteins, and
I suppose it's
exercising. Need to be active.
it's for me. It almost comes under that banner of self-respect, right?
Yeah,
You've got to treat yourself with more respect,
yeah,
because the more you respect yourself, the more other people then start to respect you. And taking that first step and doing the uncomfortable thing. If there's anything I've learned in life, is that you don't get rewarded for sitting on your backside and not doing anything. No one's going to come and hand you anything. You've got to go out there and get it.
yeah,
And taking that first step. And as you said, if it is that you're massively struggling with your mental health, taking that first step to reach out and admit that to a stranger, a doctor, or someone can be a really difficult thing to do. But
yeah.
I think taking the step is almost more rewarding than whatever help that person's going to be able to give you. So no great, as basically as we've just been saying, no great kind of success or achievement comes without some cost, some impact. So what do you feel the cost has been to you?
What you mean? There has to be a payoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Or
that
does there?
mentality,
Correct
that
me
there
if
has to be a
I'm
payoff.
wrong. Correct me if there hasn't been. But
Do you know what? I'm guessing. Well, we can talk about this and we can play around with it, but the actual truth of the matter is I haven't really like I've literally tried to do everything I've ever wanted to do my whole life, and actually, if I could go back, I would do things differently. I would be more disciplined and more structured, like I am now. When I was younger, like I don't know how you view that, because I've done a lot of stuff, but I just feel like, I don't know, I've kind of like spent a lot of time partying and shit like this.
yeah, but then equally, would you be where you are now if you hadn't gone
No,
through that journey? And if
no,
you're happy with where you are now,
Yeah, exactly. I
And
think it's all,
learning.
all part of the journey, isn't it? But I have to be honest with you, I don't feel like I have sacrificed. And the reason why I don't is because that's how my mum brought me up. She was like, living for you just live for the moment, you do it. There was that feeling going on that life's to be lived. Even on her deathbed, she would be like, she wasn't crying, like she wasn't, woe is me, I've just been given 2 months to live.
Mm.
She was like, I want you to live, I want you to do this. And like, I was going to Germany and I was going to go, I'm not going, I'm cancelling my trip and I'm doing this. And she's like, I want you to go, I want you to do all this stuff and I want you to live your life. So I think I've always had that rock star mentality where I've just wanted to do every single thing possible. But I think so. That's maybe not the best answer to that question. We're meant to be motivating people to knuckle down and do some work here.
No, no, not at all. Because it brings up a really interesting point, right? Because there is the whole thing of the past is gone, future doesn't exist. All we have is here and now.
Yeah,
And
totally.
if you're depressed, it's because you're living in the past. If you're stressed, it's because you're living in the future. But equally, it's then well, if all there is here and now, what does it matter if I drink a bottle of whiskey? Because it's just here and now. Forget
Right,
about the
right.
hangover
Now,
tomorrow.
right now, I love so much that you just said that because actually, this is the real answer to the thing that this is the answer, I reckon. So that is exactly it. Life's for the living. All we've got is the here and now. Drink the bottle of whiskey. The difference is 10 years ago, I wanted to drink the bottle of whiskey. Now I don't want to drink the bottle of whiskey. Now I want to eat some nutritious food, go and get myself squared up for tomorrow, pack my bag for my holiday, play a bit of guitar, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then get myself a good night's sleep because I've got a mega busy day tomorrow before I travel to Cornwall. Whereas the attitude 10 years ago would have been holiday Bob mode on, mate. Get me
Yeah,
that bottle of whiskey. So
yeah,
so actually, basically, the payoff right now, the payoff for me is I'm not drinking and I'm not doing that. As in, I had a glass of wine in the bath the other day, but I'm not getting drunk and
yeah,
drinking 3 bottles of wine like I
yeah.
used to. You know,
Mm.
I had a glass of wine to just chill out in the bath because it was a nice little one with my rock and roll tunes on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So basically, there is a payoff. You can't do all of those things, but I'm happy
Mm.
not to be doing those things. And maybe that's because I'm a little bit older. Maybe that's because my mentality has refined a little bit. But
Mm.
I think I'm a lot happier with the grind. The grind makes me feel alive. And actually, the harder I work, the better I feel about myself. Actually,
Yeah.
and I don't mean the harder I work without taking any rest. I
Mm.
feel like I'm taking educated rest. You know,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
to. I train 5 days a week. I have 2 days off. I have a structured plan with my training, so I know that's done, and it does. It just makes me. It makes me feel good. So there is a payoff, but it's one that I'm happy to make. And so I suppose then we go into the topic of it's more about mentality and mindset.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Yeah. So was was there a point? Is there a point? Has there been a point at which you feel like, yes, I've made it?
Um, yes, and I'm going to tell you that I reckon it's literally been within the last 2 months.
Nice.
Literally been within the last 2 months. It's what really did it is because I'm a really visual person. Where I mentioned earlier on, it's like I was really into sort of music and art were the only topics I really did well at. But it's when we've got all of these t-shirts. When I started Gladiator Camp, one of my most favourite bits was getting my friend Harry to design the artwork and make the t-shirts. Because I was
Yeah.
a rock and roller, of course I wanted my shirts to look like heavy metal t-shirts, and they did, right?
Yeah.
And so you can imagine how that same passion is reflected now when we've got the different coloured shirts for the kids and it's just they're all wearing them and they've got this amazing artwork on there. And so for seeing all that, it's like my little army of all these troops.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
good.
It comes almost. It does. When you were saying that, you know, that military thing that or uniform is what sprung to my mind there,
Yeah.
and almost a throwback to the firefighting days as well, right? Being
Yeah.
on parades, making sure the uniform is all up to spec.
Yes. I think it's vastly underestimated, actually, Ian, the power of that uniform. It's that pride that you can be, a bit of pride of ownership, bit of
Yeah,
belonging, I
belonging.
don't know, bit of a
Yeah,
part of the pack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Um, so now that you are where you are happy and you feel like you have made it, was it worth it? Was all the sacrifice, the hard work, was
Yeah.
it worth it?
Well, the thing is, it's definitely all worth it, but it's all about mentality again. And I'm 42, so I kind of feel like I'm like halfway through my career,
Yeah,
mate. I feel like I'm halfway through my career. Like literally, I have got another 22 years in the tank,
yeah,
easy, mate. I've got
yeah,
as my training develops, as I become better at leading the team, as I just develop myself, it just makes me think what more is possible. And let me tell you a story about a really good friend of mine, Mike Dad. And how old will he be now? Um, will he be 84? He's 84. And
yeah,
when I saw him at Christmas, it was actually a year ago, but we meet up for a cigar because nobody else likes cigars that he knows, but I love a cigar. So
yeah.
me and Mike go at the pub and have a cigar. And it's fantastic because literally he's like, you're literally half, like he's double my age, right? But
Yes.
we like love a cigar and we're sitting there. And I was like, Mike, you are amazing. Like, for your age, mate, you are the absolute business. I've got so much respect for him. Like, he goes running, goes to the gym, he does everything. He's an absolute hero. And I said, what's the secret? Tell me what the secret is, man. And he's just like, just keeping your mind busy. When he retired in his 60s, he started working out in Cuba, and for his job, he learned Spanish. So he literally learned Spanish when he retired. Think how incredible that is for your mind.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm not sitting here going, I'm 42. I hope the business is worth money so I can sell it when I'm 50. That is not my mentality. I have got a lot of work to do, and
Yeah,
it's good. I'm full of a lot of ideas now, and
yeah,
now I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed in my environment because I feel like I've reached a platform. It gives me that time to spend some energy on those expanding those ideas.
yeah. Nice, nice. There's a phrase which is working on the business rather than working in the business, and it's a transition. I think that a lot of small business owners may and have to make if they want to be continue to be successful. Yeah, so you're stepping away from the day to day and you're starting to look at what's the bigger picture here. Where am I going? And it
Yeah,
sounds like you've just stepping over that threshold, which is a really exciting time.
yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, that's nice. So, what message have you got for anyone else who wants to become a personal trainer, firefighter, rock star, business owner?
Just whatever you do, you just have to do it with a lot of passion, and that has to be number one. The end result or the end product or the end client comes first. If your mentality isn't that, then don't bother. I wouldn't employ you, basically. If people have a certain mentality, people that are focused on the details and doing things right, getting the job done, all the most successful people that I know. I've got my friend on the farm who's just like, when you go over and see how he runs the farm and how he's, when he's doing all the drilling and everything, he is just like takes so much pride in how he's doing that. And, when I said I've got my friend in the Navy and I'm going through different bits and pieces with the training and that he's delivering there, I've got another friend who's a really successful businessman, who's an entrepreneur. And it's like, it's all about the details. I've got a friend who's a chef, and the reason we met, we literally started talking in the gym, and literally because we're just so into the details of what we do, and those are always the people that are the most successful because that's where the energy needs to go. If you focus on the end product or the end user or whatever it is that's at the end there, you cannot go wrong. Do a job and do it 110% right, and
Nice.
then
Love
still
that.
strive to do it better.
Great finishing statement. Thank you, Steve. Where can people reach you? Where can people find you if they want to find out more about Gladiator Camp, if they want to come down and join Gladiator Camp?
Fantastic. Yes, so we're on Facebook or Instagram. If you look us up, Gladiator Camp Fitness for Petersfield.
Wonderful. And I'll put a link in the show notes as well. Been great talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. and I'm sure, yes, we will catch up again soon. There's it feels like there's a lot more to be explored there as well.
Most definitely. Really good to talk to you, Ian. Thanks for getting in touch.
Cheers, Steve.
Cheers, mate.